I'm interested in interactive cognition, of course in HCI, but interactive cognition as a basis for HCI. I'm really fascinated by how we think in our senses, how we think in our visual system, using the visual cortex as a thinking machine rather than just the propositional or reasoning part of the brain. So I think we do that in audition. Musicians can think in sound. Chefs can think gustatorily or through smell. There's a lot of ways in which we think, and I think there's some continuity with animals in there. So I'm deeply interested in that. And along with that goes how we think by projecting onto the world extensions. So you look at my hands now, I ask you to project a little line between these two fingers, and you can do it. Now, if I ask you to project on a tic-tac-toe board or in some other structure, you can, or ask you to solve a problem in geometry which requires making a triangle and doing some lines. By the way, you're projecting. As I do this, you see the triangle I make, and it's got a certain persistence. I can refer to that side again. So there's something going on in vision that's holding that in visual memory, and we can manipulate that. But when it gets too hard to manipulate it, we draw and we do things on the outside world. That process of projecting structure to the outside world and then creating structure, I think, is one of the primary interactive strategies by which we are able to think. So I'm very keen on thinking in our senses and then in interactively thinking, say visually or auditorially, musically. I'm interested in creativity and tools for creativity, such as generative design and architecture. I studied the creative process of the choreographer of the Royal Ballet for many years, and I found that to be a lot of fun. Naturally, I'm interested in embodied cognition because we also think with our body physically. And then for the last several years, or quite a few years now, I've been interested in the neuroscience for architecture. One of the big projects that I'm keen on is how we could take the acoustics of, say, a large room or a sacred space inside a church or a mosque or a monastery, which has certain resonant properties. And then we can recreate that in a small space. It's all possible now with digital acoustics. And the room you're in might be small with a 7-foot ceiling and it's only a 10 by 10 room. But if we project, if we in real time create the acoustics so that if you clap your hands, it sounds like you've clapped your hands in that big space, will you change your perception of the height of the ceiling? There's a range of experiments that I'll be doing along with some colleagues at Stanford, and we'll be going to wonderful places in the world to capture the acoustics and then come back and recreate them in a small space and see what we can, how we can change people's experience. Because it's a lot less expensive to make you think you're in a bigger room than it is to redesign, re-architect the room you're living in. So I think the future holds a lot of that for us. And that's just one of very many areas of architecture that I'm interested in.